Hello, once again, I'm here at 12 Cedars Hall for EWH Friday the 13th show. I'm here interviewing independent wrestler and also Ring of Honor star Adam Cole.
Asking to be on the show.
How many years have you been in the wrestling business?
I have been wrestling, at this point, it's been like 3.5 years now. In April of 2012 will be 4 years. So I'm still pretty new to pro wrestling, but I've had a lot of really, really good experiences so far.
Who were you trained by?
I was trained by DJ Hyde and John Dahmer at the CZW Wrestling Academy. Hey!
How did you think of your character?
Like my heel or my babyface character? Or just whichever.
Well, I'd say I have a question on here. Describe your transformation between Adam Carell to Adam Cole.
Oh, okay. Well, to be honest, the Adam Carell, Adam Cole thing was actually, I was Adam Cole before I was Adam Carell. But then I came here to EWA, and there was already a Cole Calloway, so the promoter said I had to change my name. So we came up with Adam Carell, and then in other promotions like Dragon Gate USA and Chikara and CZW, I continued using Adam Cole, obviously, because that's my ring name. So eventually they let me transition over to being able to use Adam Cole everywhere, thank God, because I hated having two names. I hated it so much.
What has been the toughest match you have competed in?
Toughest match I've competed in? I'd say the toughest match that I've had so far was when I had in Charlotte, North Carolina for Ring of Honor. It was me and Kyle O'Reilly against Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards, because those guys are two of the very, very best in the world. And they bring it every single time they wrestle. You're in for a fight every single time. So, yeah, I got my ass kicked that match, man. It was rough, but I got through it, thankfully, and I'm still alive sitting here doing this interview. So, but yeah, that was by far the toughest match, probably, for me.
The next question relates to Ring of Honor. How did you hear about Ring of Honor?
I was actually what had happened was I went to a website at the time. It was called ObsessedWithWrestling.com. I was a giant wrestling fan. This is probably back in 2004, 2005. And there was this guy who caught my attention immediately just based on his promo ability, and that was CM Punk. Excuse me. And I got a best of DVD of his, and it was a Ring of Honor best of, and I was instantly captivated by his feud with Raven and all the stuff he did, like in the ring and promo-wise too. And he was just amazing, like such an awesome guy. Guys like Bryan Danielson was also someone else that interested me to check out Ring of Honor. And by 2005, 2006, I was a solid Ring of Honor fan, and I got all the DVDs, went to all the local shows, and was just a huge ROH fan. So it's really, really cool to be able to say that I work for the company now.
How many wrestling federations have you worked for, past and present?
To be honest, I don't have an exact number, but it's definitely been over like 40 promotions. I've been really, really lucky. I've got to wrestle in countless promotions all over the United States. A couple promotions up in Canada. I've worked in England and Germany. I'm going to Japan this March. So I've been really, really fortunate, and I've gotten to travel a lot of different places. I'm supposed to go to Australia this year. So I've got to do lots of traveling for pro wrestling. It's been really, really cool to travel and like see different parts of the world.
Who would be your dream opponent?
My dream opponent, if I had to pick anybody to wrestle in the entire world, bar none, it would be Shawn Michaels. Because to me, that guy is just the definition of constantly pursuing excellence and perfection. Because it was like, for years and years and years, people always told Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Triple H, those guys that he was the greatest wrestler ever. And he still didn't think he was good enough, and he still wanted to get better, he still wanted to improve. And because he had that mindset, he just had incredible match after incredible match. So I can't imagine what I would learn if I got to step in the ring with him. So he's by far my dream opponent.
Is there anything that you change about pro wrestling today?
Yeah, the one thing I would change is how easy it is to get into pro wrestling. I think now there's this position where anybody who has a wrestling ring and anybody who's had a match and anyone who can buy wrestling gear can call themselves wrestlers now. And I don't think that's how it should be, because lots of times you'll see wrestling shows, all across the United States, where it's a bunch of guys who wrestle once every 2-3 months in front of crowds and call themselves pro wrestlers. When if I was a fan checking out pro wrestling for the first time, and my impression of pro wrestling was, just this show that was set up in someone's backyard, and they walk away with that same stereotype that pro wrestling is just a big joke and it's phony and it's corny. So I wish it was harder to get into pro wrestling, because I think if that was the case, we'd have a lot better pro wrestlers, we'd have a lot better pro wrestling shows, and therefore the fans would have more to respect about wrestling, and I think we'd have a bigger fan base, to be honest. I think that's what's really hurting wrestling right now, is the ability for anybody and everybody to get involved in it. I don't think it should be like that.
Have you ever been physically injured?
Yes.
Wrestling?
Yes, I have. Goodbye. Say goodbye to Eric C. Jones.
Go for it.
I'm the worst.
No,
But I'm better than him.
I love you.
I love you.
I'll text you.
Okay. Yes, I have had, I'm 22 years old, and I've had 3 pretty serious concussions. The worst one was the first one that I had, which I took an enziguri to the side of the head, and it completely knocked me out. And I still, to this day, don't remember that 24 hours. And that, I never went to the doctor, never went to see anybody, which was stupid, so stupid. But yeah, that knocked me really, really silly. And yeah, that was really scary, because the scary thing about concussions is people don't think they're a big deal because you feel fine the next day. But the truth is, concussions are the scariest injuries you can get because of that reason. You think you're fine, but if you go back and get another one, you get permanent brain damage. You can even be paralyzed. So it's a serious deal. But wrestlers get concussions all the time and just keep going through. We're nuts. We're crazy.
Who has been some of your favorite talents you have worked with?
Gosh, I've been really lucky where I've got to wrestle like a lot of really, really good guys. Steve Corino is one of my favorite guys that I've ever wrestled. Because the first time I ever wrestled him, we got to go 25 minutes, and I learned so much that night, because Steve is so good, and he's the exact kind of wrestler that I want to be. Like, he's so character-based, and he understands everything. He does everything for a reason. I think he's a genius. Steve Corino's been one of my favorite guys to get in there with. There's this guy from the UK, his name's Zack Sabre Jr. He's one of my favorite guys I've ever gotten in the ring with. My tag team partner, Kyle O'Reilly, is one of my favorites too. Like, I could go on and on and on about favorite guys, but like, those were guys that like come to my head right away. And oh, another guy is Sami Callihan, is ridiculously good. So it's always cool to get in the ring with him.
Who are some of your role models growing up?
Well, my first favorite wrestler was Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's the guy who got me into pro wrestling. So he's always been like kind of like a role model for me when I was a kid. Kurt Angle was another role model for me, because I hated school, but like he beat it into my head based on his accomplishments in his life that like, okay, maybe I should try to do good in school, because Kurt Angle did really good in school and worked really hard and was just that clean-cut American guy like when he won the Olympics. So like, you know, that made me want to do well in school. Kurt Angle was a big role model. And then CM Punk also, because I'm not anymore, but I didn't drink or anything when I was in school because CM Punk was straight edge, and that made me like tough it out through high school, where I was like, no, I don't need to drink and I don't need to smoke pot, I don't need to do all that stuff because CM Punk doesn't do it and he's cool. So like, he was another guy who was a role model, because that's the cool thing about wrestling is wrestlers don't realize how influential they really can be, especially when you're on such a main stage level like that. Like, a lot of us, I'm sure you in some cases too, like even growing up, like based a lot of your actions and characteristics off what your favorite wrestlers did. Because I certainly did that when I was in school, and I know lots of wrestling fans base really who they are off of their favorite wrestlers. So they have a giant impact on people. But yeah, those were the top 3.